Thank you, thank you. So this story is coming out in Crime Factory next month, in their next edition, and it's called I Just Want to Love You. It's time to tell your wife about us, Rebecca said. My mind worked slowly and deliberately, like a fat man wading through a pool, as I tried to accept that after a few months of sleeping together, Rebecca had clearly lost her shit. I needed to get her out of my couch and out of my house before Emily came home with our kids. Are you going to say anything? Rebecca asked, and she stood and crossed her arms, looking like an exclamation point about to pounce on the end of a sentence. Here's the thing, I said. But I didn't know what the thing was, so I stopped speaking and scratched my arm. I probably deserved to get caught, given my carelessness over the past 2 months. It's the kind of sloppiness my old wife would have never allowed. I'd kept some of Rebecca's texts on my phone, lunched with her on at least 3 occasions, stopped showering after we slept together, and then there were the dick pics. My God, so many dick pics. I'd sent them from my office, the bedroom, the garage, once in a restroom stall at Chili's for some reason. Rebecca hadn't asked for these pictures and didn't even seem to enjoy them. After the last one, she sent back a picture of herself giving me a thumbs up. A pretty lukewarm response. I didn't care. It just made me want to send more. You said, here's the thing. Rebecca ran an impatient hand through her shoulder-length hair. What's the thing? I walked into the living room and stood close to her. I was also close to the fireplace and the mantle with a heavy tennis trophy one of our daughters had recently won. I love you, I lied. But I'm not ready to tell Emily. Rebecca looked away from me, toward the picture of my wife on an end table, then turned her gaze to the floor. I told you, I hate it when you say her name. I thought about grabbing the tennis trophy and beating Rebecca to death, but decided against it. Still, the thought didn't bother me, even though it'd been a long time since I'd done anything like that. I was starting to wonder if she'd let her meds expire. Rebecca had told me about her lifelong problems with depression, and I could tell she was a little off when we first met. Flashback to 6 months ago. Emily'd been out of town for a week, and I'd taken our 8-year-old twin daughters to Target. The girls ran off to assault the clothing section, and I found myself staring at a wall full of clocks. A short, thin brunette with a small face and hair held back by a black headband had walked over and stood near me. She looked about the same age as Emily, maybe 30 or 31. Are you trying to figure out what time it is? I had asked. She looked at me surprised, then offered a quick smile. I'm trying to figure out if it's worth buying a clock for my dining room. Well, don't steal it, I said. You might end up doing hard time. She kept looking at me. You get it? Hard time? I got it, she said. Are you a comedian? No. Well, that's good. We were quiet for a moment, then she said, I'm sorry, that was rude. My name's Rebecca. Mark. She suddenly laughed. That was such a stupid joke, Mark. We talked for 10 more minutes, and then I remembered my girls, so I told Rebecca I had to go. If you're ever around the Silver Spring Diner, she told me, stop by. I work evenings, and I'd like to keep talking to you. My wife would kill me if I went. Then don't tell her. I headed toward the girls and texted their sitter on the way. I asked if she could come over the following night. That following night, I drove home to Bethesda from Rebecca's apartment, surprised at how calm I felt. I'd slept with other women during my marriage, and as I knew, worry lessened with each crime you committed. But there was always some worry, like the worry that you might come home and find your mistress waiting in your house. Flash forward to the present. I really need to get Rebecca out of my house. She walked to the living room and gazed out to the street. You don't understand how hard this has been, she said. It's been hard on me too, I told her, and I hurried over and guided her away from the window. But you told me you've dated married men before. It's not something I'm proud of, Rebecca said, as she let me walk her away. This is different. Those men and I never said we loved each other, and I hate being this woman, this other woman. It's changing me. I keep calling here and hanging up. The other day I followed your wife to work. This affair is turning me into something I'm not. Do you understand what I'm saying? But I didn't understand because I barely listened after Rebecca said she'd followed Emily to work. I was imagining yanking the TV out of the wall, staggering over to Rebecca and dropping it on her head. But instead I told her, I understand. Can you just tell me one thing, Rebecca asked? Would you ever leave her for me? No. Rebecca wiped her eyes, smearing tears. I can't believe how much this has changed me, she said. Her voice softened. I did something the other day I'm not proud of. Something with Emily? Did you talk to her? Did you follow my children? Rebecca shook her head. I bought pills. It took me a moment. You're gonna kill yourself? I've thought about it. I've been this person for so long, I can't do it. I can't stop it. I can't take it. She glanced at the carpet and the ceiling and down into her crossed arms, everywhere but at me. Well, if you were going to do it, I said, pills are definitely the way to go. What? I shrugged. Pills are painless and they're quick. You just go to sleep. And since you live alone, it's not like a roommate's going to find you. You won't have to worry about being saved. Rebecca's eyes were wide, her mouth a little open. You want me to die? I just don't see what other option there is for you. You know you're going over the edge. I sat Rebecca down on the couch, took her hands in mine and looked into her eyes. You're just not the kind of woman men make their first choice. You don't have anything to offer. You have a degree in English and it's from Arizona State, so you're probably going to be a waitress for the rest of your life. Nobody wants that. Rebecca took her hands away but didn't try to stop the tears. Why are you telling me this, she whispered. I just think it's the right thing to do. You know, we even have a box of sleeping pills upstairs if you want more. Sometimes Emily has trouble sleeping. What if I told her what happened between us? I could ruin everything you have. But why hurt others when you can hurt yourself? I paused. Seriously, the box is right upstairs. Rebecca kept crying. I watched her and waited, and after almost a minute, she nodded. I ran upstairs, got the pills, and brought them down. It's a 48-pack, I told her. Rebecca took the box from me, and I walked her out of the room. I opened the front door. She hesitated before she stepped out. How could you do this to me, Rebecca asked. I just wanted to love you. I closed the door. Later that night, after my wife came home with the girls, I drove to Rebecca's apartment. Her car, an old Accord, sat in the lot. I parked, walked to her apartment's front door, and knocked. No answer. I knocked again. Nothing. I pressed my ear to the door. I didn't hear a thing. No voices, no television. I went back to my car, drove off, and waited for guilt to rustle and rise, but it didn't. The bloodless crime actually felt good. It was nice to peer in the past, then close and lock that door behind me. I found Emily in the kitchen when I got home, gave her a kiss on the cheek, told her I loved her. She didn't react to the kiss or words. Are you okay? I asked. She shook her head. What's wrong? Did something happen at work? Emily's eyes were red. I found this on the couch, she said, and she held out Rebecca's phone. Everything in the world stopped. Why is it filled with pictures of your penis? The end.